So, over the last few weeks, we have been bouncing around the idea of the 4 stages of love that come from our book, The Deepest Thanks and Deeper Apologies. And just as a review, we'll go over those 4 stages. Stage 1 is I love myself for my sake. I love God for my sake is stage number 2. Stage 3 is I love God for His sake. Stage 4 is I love myself for God's sake. So tonight, we're going to take a look at Jesus' parable of the prodigal son that we find in Luke chapter 15. We're going to look at the ways that the 2 sons in the story display some of these 4 stages of love. So if you will, if you have your Bible with me, if you don't, there should be some around the table. You can turn with me to Luke chapter 15, and we're just going to read through real quick here the entire story, so we're all on the same page, starting from the same spot. So starting in verse 11, and this is Jesus talking. He says, "There was a man who had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, 'Father, give me the share of the property that is coming to me.' And he divided his property between them. Not many days later, the younger son gathered all he had and took a journey into a far country, and there he squandered his property in reckless living. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of the country, who sent him out into the fields to feed pigs. And he was longing to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate, but no one gave him any. But when he came to himself, he said, 'How many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, but I perish here with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your servant. Treat me as one of your hired servants.' And he arose and came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion, and ran and embraced and kissed him. And the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Bring quickly the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet. And bring the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this is my son was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found.' And they began to celebrate. Now his older son was in the field, and when he came and drew near to the house, he heard music and dancing. And he called one of the servants and asked, 'What are these things meant?' He said to them, 'Your brother has come, and your father has killed the fatted calf, because he has received him back safe and sound.' But he was angry and refused to go in. So his father came out and entreated him. But he answered his father, 'Look, these many years I have served you, and I never disobeyed your command. Yet you never gave me a young goat that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him.' And he said to him, 'Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. It was fitting to celebrate and be glad. For this your brother was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found.'" All right. So now we're all on the same page. We all have heard the story of the prodigal son. No one can use that against me. So now, as we go forward here, we're going to, like I said, look at the 4 stages of love and how the 2 brothers, the 2 sons of this man, displayed some of those stages of love. But as I've thought over these 4 stages over the last several weeks that we've been going over this in our series, I came to kind of the conclusion that we never fully arrive at any one of these stages. We're always bouncing around from one to the other. And if we look closely at the parable, Jesus' parable here, the prodigal son, we see that the sons as well, they're bouncing around. They go from one stage to the other. They never stay fully in one. Now, as I read through Luke 15, I observed that the prodigal son, the younger son, displayed 3 of the 4 stages of love, while the older brother displayed only 2. While they displayed some of the same stages, because there's only 4, and there's a total of 5 that we just said, so they obviously both displayed some of the same stages of love. They displayed them in almost polar opposite ways. So we're going to take a look at that, and as I feel it will give us insight into where we might be in these stages of love. But in order to examine this parable a little better, we're going to break it up into 3 parts. And those should be in your outline. You can fill them out as we go along. Part one is going to consist of the younger son wanting his share. He then leaves home to live life his own way. He ends up broke, and then he ends up working with pigs. Part two will consist of the younger son then changing his way of thinking, in resolving to return to his father's house and then the returning. And then part three is simply the elder son throwing a pity party. So let's dive into part one right away here. Part one, we are going to call pure selfishness. So if you have that blank in your outline there, you can fill it out. Pure selfishness is what part one is. Let's take a look at verse 11 through 12. So once again, Jesus is talking. He says that there was a man who had 2 sons. And the younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me the share of property that is coming to me." And he divided it between them. So here we see the younger son wanting or even demanding what is due to him, what he feels is due to him. This is motivated out of pure selfishness. It's that son saying, "This is what I can get from you, so it's mine." He loves the father not because he loves the father because of what he can get from his father, which is very, very similar to our second stage of love, of loving God for my own sake. So the son loves the father simply for what he can get from his father. He doesn't love his father because of who he is or what he does for the son, only what he can get. So he says, "Give it to him." Now, we know that this story is about 2 sons of the man. But that's the only mention at this point that we have, is that there's 2 sons. And we're told more about the younger son. So at this point, we're kind of led to believe that the elder son, eldest, I went over this, eldest, not elder, over and over I went over this. The eldest son, we're led to believe that he is a good son, that he obeys his father out of respect for the father, out of a love for the father because of who the father is. But as we dive deeper and towards the end of our passage, we'll see that that's really not the case. Now let's look at 13 through 14. Not many days later, the younger son gathered all he had and took a journey into a far country. And there he squandered his property in reckless living. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in the country, and he began to be in need. So we see the younger son leaves the care of his father. He goes to live life his own way. Once again, pure selfishness. He doesn't care what anybody else thinks, what anybody else feels. He just is living for himself. He's doing whatever in the world he wants to do because that's what he wants. This is reverting back to that first stage of love, loving myself for my own sake. He doesn't care about anyone else. All he cares about is himself. He's looking out for number one. He doesn't take any time to stop and consider the consequences, the risk, or the foolishness of his decisions because he's caught up in himself. He wants what he wants. That is, until all is lost. We see in verse 15, so he went out because he began to be in need. So he went out and hired himself out to one of the citizens of the country, who sent him out to work into the field. So we see now the younger son is working, living, and eating with pigs. Doesn't sound like a very fun time to me. At this point, his actions change, not necessarily from being completely self-centered, but into self-preservation. I don't think self-preservation is necessarily an all bad thing, but how he got to that point is because of the selfishness. So now he's in a stage of self-preservation. But if we look deeper than just self-preservation, we once again see that this love that he has for the boss or the pig farmer is once again simply because of what he gets. So he loves the boss because of what he can get out of it. He gets to live, he gets to survive. And that brings us to part 2. In part 2 on our outline, we're going to title Waking Up. And I chose that because Scripture literally tells us that he went and woke up. So we're looking at verse 17. We're still talking about the younger son. It says, "But when he came to himself," so when he woke up, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, but I perish here with hunger?" So he kind of wakes up and he realizes, wow, I did a stupid thing. So he wakes up and he comes to his senses and realizes that the way that he had been living isn't really living at all. Living, feeding with pigs isn't my, or I don't think anybody, unless maybe a pig farmer's, definition of living. He's drowning in self-pity at this point. Because of his self-love, he arrived at self-pity. So at this point, the son's thoughts begin to change. I know we've talked about in the prior weeks about how changing from that I love God for my sake to that I love God for his sake requires a shift in our thinking, a shift in our paradigm, the way that we think. So at this point, in verse 17, when the son wakes up, that's when his thinking starts to shift. He starts to think in a different way. He begins to realize the true value of his father's love that the father had given to him, and he longs for it again. But this time, not because of what he can get out of it, but out of the true motives. So let's look at 18 and the first part of 20. It says, I will rise up and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants. And he rose and came to go to his father. So we see him resolving to return. He's changed his mind, his thinking. He's changed the way that he thinks about his father. He thinks, instead of that what can I get, he's starting to think, well, what can I give? What can I give my father? So he resolves to return. He makes plans to return return to his father's house. All the way thinking, I don't know about you guys, but whenever I messed up as a kid, I always rehearsed what I was going to tell mom and dad. If I broke the pot, I was going to tell. I would rehearse the whole way there. But usually I had to lie instead of the truth. But here we see the son is thinking the whole way there. He's thinking, what am I going to tell Dad? What am I going to tell him? How am I going to lay this out to him and seek forgiveness? So we see him wanting to return to his father's house as a servant, to lower himself, to serve the one who has given him so much instead of taking. He changes his love for his father into that of stage 3, loving the father for the father's sake. So now we're going to take a little bit of a break, and we're going to skip down to verses 25 through 30 and talk about the younger son, or the eldest son. I'll write that down. The eldest son. We'll come back then to verse 20 and look at how the father reacts, but we're going to do that at the end. So right now we're going to move into part 3. And we're going to title that, It's Not Always What It Seems. Now if you remember, if we go back to the beginning of our message, I said that we're led to believe that the eldest son is that good son. He obeys out of obedience and out of love for his father. But if we look here, we're going to start in verse 25. We're going to see that that's really not true. So let's read 25 through 30. Now the older son was in the field, and he came and drew near the house. Now if you remember, this is after the younger son has returned. So the younger son returned, they're having the party, the older son comes in from the field. And so he calls one of the servants and asks him what these things meant. And the servant said to him, Your brother has come, your father has killed the fattened calf, because he has received him back safe and sound. But the older son was angry. He refused to go in. His father came out and entreated him. But he answered his father, Look, these many years I have served you, and I never disobeyed your command. Yet you never gave me a young goat that I might celebrate with my friends. So we see that it's really not true. The elder son is not living his life in stage 3 of loving the father for the father's sake. He's actually doing quite a good job of disguising it and living in stage 2, which is loving the father for what he can get out of it. We see that he becomes angry because he hasn't gotten his share. But I also want to point us back to verse 12, where the father divided the inheritance. He gives both the sons their inheritance. But the younger son chooses to spend it frivolously. The older son just decides to keep living in how he was. But he thinks that because I was obedient, I should get more. So we see that he has been feeling this entire time, he has been thinking that he is entitled to this grand party because of his obedience. So he hasn't really been obeying his father out of love for the father. He's been doing it out of love for self, for what he can get. If he can get that party, he can get that goat to go party with himself. If he can get the ring or the blanket or the shoes that we see the father give the younger son, then he'll be happy. But it's really not because of the love for the father. So here is where we see that this is that they're showing the same stage of love. The two brothers are showing us that same stage of love, the love of the father for what I can get, in two different ways. The one lives it openly. He blatantly says, "Give me what I can get," and then heads out his own way. But the eldest son, he says, "Take what I can get," but he's not going to say it openly and blatantly. So he disguises his love for his father as being a self-sacrificing love instead of a self-centered love. So we've looked now at how the two brothers in our story, in our parable here, displayed those the three stages of love that we were looking at. But in the time that we have remaining tonight, I want to look at how the father reacts to his two sons. I want us to learn three key things about the Father that are true about our Heavenly Father as well. And these are in your outline as well. We're going to go through these a little bit faster. But we're going to start back up in the latter part of verse 20. It says, "And he arose and came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion. And he ran and embraced him and kissed him. And the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.'" So here we see that the father is watching and he's waiting. He doesn't care where we're at, where we've been, where we're coming from. He's watching, he's waiting. He's waiting for us to return. He's watching and he's waiting. And the next thing that we're going to see is in verse 22. And I love this because the father doesn't even let his son finish speaking. He doesn't even let him finish that sentence of, "I've sinned against heaven, I've sinned against you. Don't let me return as your son, but let me return as your servant." He doesn't even let him finish that statement, but the father says to him, he says, "Bring quickly the best robe, put on him, and put a ring on his hand, and shoes on his feet." So he doesn't even let the son finish. He's so excited to see his son return. And we know he's been watching, waiting, and here we learn that he covers us. And in our book, Deepest Thanks and Deeper Apologies, I really like the way that the author summed this up. And so let me read that to you. It says, "In the story of the prodigal son, that's exactly what the father did when the younger son returned. Weeping with joy, he ran out to it, taking his sin in order to hide it. He covered his son's sin with a robe and his feet with shoes, both hiding the shame of where he had been and what he had done. Then he gave him the ring of sonship, restoring his authority as a son. The father's forgiveness mercifully covered and took away the son's sin. The father didn't share the young man's sin with everyone, but instead asked everyone to celebrate his return." And that's our last thing that we learned about the father, is that he celebrates over us. And we see that in verse 23 and 24, as well as the last verse of the chapter, 32. We'll read those real quick here. Verse 23. "And bring the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For my son was dead, and he is alive again. He was lost and is found," and they began to celebrate. And jumping back down to verse 32, the father is saying to the elder son, "That it was fitting for me to celebrate and be glad, for this your brother was dead, and is now alive. He was lost and is now found." Our Heavenly Father is watching and waiting for us to return. He will cover us when we do and celebrate over us. Now in closing, I want us to take a moment and think about where we are right now. Are we the younger son, demanding to get whatever can be gotten from the Father? Or are we the elder son, pretending to love the Father, but really we're only in it for what we can get? Or are we the younger son, returning to the Father in reverence with our head down, saying that we have nothing left to offer, but let me serve you because of what you've done for me? Or are we the elder son, angry because we didn't get what we want? No matter where we find ourselves, the Father is always there, watching, waiting, and ready for us to come home, ready to return to Him, to be covered in His love, and to restore us to where we belong, and throw a party and rejoice over us. Let's pray. Lord, I thank you for who you are, that you love us, that you are watching and waiting for us to return. No matter where we're coming from, no matter where we've been, you cover us and you celebrate over us. And I thank you for giving us your word that we can learn more about you, about who you are, and your love for us. And I pray that you watch over each and every one of us as we head on from here. Pray these things in your holy and precious name. Amen.